If you're even thinking about buying a home right now, you know you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's this huge dilemma, right? Do you jump in, bite the bullet, and buy a house with today's crazy high interest rates? Or do you wait, hope rates drop, but then risk home prices shooting through the roof? It's a massive financial crossroads, and honestly, it's a tough call. So you've probably heard this phrase being thrown around everywhere: marry the house, date the rate. It's become the go-to mantra in the real estate world. It sounds simple, it's super catchy, and it's gotten a ton of traction with people just like you who are trying to figure this market out. But here's the real question. Is it actually good advice? Is this a genuinely smart way to lock down your dream home? Or could it be an overly optimistic sales pitch that might just lead you into a financial mess? Okay, let's really dig in and break down what this all means. First up, let's look at the argument for buying now. This is the whole idea behind committing to the property, the house itself, even if it means you're stuck with a less than perfect interest rate, at least for a little while. The logic here is pretty simple, You find a house you absolutely love, you lock in that price right now before it has a chance to go up even more. And then you kind of play the waiting game. The whole plan, the entire strategy, hinges on refinancing your mortgage later on, once interest rates finally come back down to earth. And the big bet is that rates will fall. Now, what's really interesting here is this number. This is a forecast from the real estate brokerage Redfin. They're predicting that the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate will hit 6.3% in 2026. I mean, that's a pretty significant drop from the highs we've been seeing lately. And look, this isn't just wishful thinking from real estate agents. We're talking about financial heavyweights signaling the same thing. This little bit of analysis from Goldman Sachs, they're suggesting that the Federal Reserve itself is probably going to start cutting rates, and that directly impacts the mortgage rates you and I actually pay. And this quote right here, this perfectly explains the other side of the coin. This is from Thomas Bullins at AmeriSave, and he just nails the core problem. Waiting for those lower rates could mean you get completely priced out of the house itself. The big fear is that by the time rates look good, home prices will have just gone wild. But of course, it's never that simple, is it? Let's flip this around and look at the other side of the argument, because there are some very real, very serious risks to this strategy that have a lot of people feeling pretty skeptical. And this quote from a Reddit user just perfectly captures how the skeptics feel. For a lot of folks, that marry the house, date the rate line sounds way too much like a guarantee in a market that offers absolutely zero guarantees. It just feels like an absolute promise in a world that's full of variables. When you decide to do this, you're basically placing a bet. I mean, let's be honest. In the best case scenario, rates drop, your home value goes up, you refinance, you get a cheaper payment, and life is good. But the worst case scenario, well, that's where things can get really, really ugly. And this is that nightmare scenario laid out in no uncertain terms. If home values fall instead of rising, you could end up underwater, where you owe more on your mortgage than the house is even worth. And in that situation, you can't refinance, you are completely and totally trapped with both the house and that painfully high rate. So after hearing all that, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds terrifying. Given how high the stakes are, what can you actually do? Are there ways to approach this strategy that help manage some of that risk? Well, the answer is yes. There are actually tools designed for this exact situation. This is where we shift from just hoping for the best to having a real strategy. And the crucial takeaway here is that a smart home buyer doesn't just cross their fingers and hope. No, they use specific financial instruments to build a kind of safety net to make those first few years with a high-rate mortgage way more manageable. Okay, so the first tool in our playbook is called a seller buy-down. Basically, what happens is, as part of your negotiation to buy the house, the seller agrees to pay a lump sum of cash to your lender. And in return, the lender gives you a lower interest rate for the first 1, 2, or even 3 years of your loan. This makes your initial payments much, much more affordable. So how does this actually work? Well, it's a pretty simple 3-step process. First, your agent negotiates the buy-down right into your purchase offer. Simple enough. Second, at closing, the seller pays that fee directly to the lender from their proceeds. And third, this is the best part, you get the payoff, a lower monthly payment that gives you some really valuable breathing room while you wait for the market rates to hopefully drop. Now, the second powerful tool is called buying mortgage points. And unlike a temporary buy-down, this is a way to permanently lower your interest rate. It's pretty straightforward. You pay an upfront fee to the lender, and in exchange, they reduce your rate for the entire life of the loan. Now, check this out, because the math here is what really makes this interesting. Take a look at this example from AmeriSave. On a $300,000 loan, you pay $4,500 upfront to buy what's called points. That drops your rate from 7% down to 6.5%. But look at the long-term result. That initial cost ends up saving you over $25,000 over the life of the loan. That is a huge long-term win. Okay, so let's bring all this home. We've looked at the arguments for and against, and we've talked about the actual tools you can use to make this work. So what's the final calculation you need to be making? How do you decide? First things first, you have to be honest with yourself about the risk. This is not risk-free. Using tools like points and buy-downs makes the gamble more calculated, for sure, but it is still a gamble. Whether or not it's the right move for you depends completely on your personal finances, and this is so important, how long you actually plan to stay in the home. And that brings us to maybe the most important concept in this whole discussion, the break-even point. This is the magic number. It's the exact moment in time, the specific month or year, when your monthly savings from that lower interest rate have officially paid you back for the upfront cost of the points or the buy down. After you hit this point, every single month is just pure savings in your pocket. And this quote from Thomas Bullins just nails it. If you sell the house or you refinance before you hit that break-even point, you've actually lost money on the deal. That's why your personal timeline is so critical. You have to be pretty confident that you're going to stay in that mortgage long enough to actually see the rewards. So we kind of end up right where we started, but now with a much clearer picture. Knowing the risks, knowing the potential rewards, and knowing about the tools you can use to shift the odds in your favor, the final question is all yours. It's a personal calculation for sure, but now you have the framework you need to make a truly informed decision.
Wow, that was something, right? But don't go anywhere, there's more coming, and it's going to make you think in a whole new way. Quick reminder, if you like learning cool stuff without the fluff, subscribe now. You won't regret it.
Hey, welcome. Let's talk about something that sounds, well, frankly, impossible. The idea that the pay raise you are working so hard for could actually end up making you poorer. It sounds crazy, I know. It's something called the 2026 tax trap. And today, we're going to break down exactly what it is, and more importantly, how you can stop it. Let's dive in. So yeah, how is that even possible, right? Getting more money in your paycheck should mean, well, you have more money. But there's this weird quirk in our tax system, and it's about to get a whole lot more intense with some big changes coming down the pike. This isn't a trick question. It's a real trap we need to understand. Okay, so the heart of this whole problem has a name. It's called fiscal drag. And really, it's a pretty simple concept when you break it down. Imagine the tax brackets are frozen in place. They don't move. But your salary, hopefully, is going up, maybe to keep up with inflation. Well, that raise can be just enough to nudge you into a higher tax bracket. So suddenly you're paying a bigger slice of your income to taxes. But your actual spending power, what you can go out and buy, hasn't really changed at all. And this, right here, this is the perfect way to visualize it. On paper, your paycheck is getting bigger. That arrow is pointing up. You feel like you're getting ahead. But once you account for taxes and inflation, your real spending power, what you can actually do with that money, can start pointing down. It is an incredibly frustrating feeling. You know, this whole thing is so subtle, it happens so quietly in the background that most people never even notice it. And that's exactly why experts have given it a very fitting nickname. That's right, it's called a stealth tax. And this quote from IN Accountancy nails it. The government doesn't actually have to pass a new law that says we're raising your taxes. Instead, they can just sit back and let inflation and wage growth do all the work for them, silently creeping millions of us into higher tax brackets year after year. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is very real, and there's a huge deadline coming up that's going to pour gasoline on this fire. We are talking about what's known as the 2026 tax cliff. So here's the deal. A few years ago, a big piece of legislation called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA for short, was passed. And for most people, it lowered their income tax rates. But here was the fine print. A lot of those tax cuts were only temporary. And guess what? That temporary period is just about over. They are all set to just vanish at the end of 2025. This timeline lays it out clear as day. Back in 2017, the tax rates went down. Now, we're fast approaching the end of 2025, when that law basically expires. And then, boom, in 2026, if Congress doesn't do anything, the old higher tax rates are set to snap right back into place. And just look at the difference here. This table from Insero Advisors really shows you what's at stake. The 12% tax bracket you might be in right now, that's jumping up to 15%. The 22% bracket goes to 25%. And that top rate shoots all the way back up to almost 40%. For millions of families, this is going to feel like a major tax hike that happens literally overnight. Okay, so that's the problem, and I know it sounds pretty grim. But here's where we pivot. Here's the good news. You are not a victim here. You have tools. There are specific, totally legal strategies you can use to protect your money. So let's talk about building your financial shield. So how do we actually fight back? How can you shield your paycheck from getting eaten alive by this fiscal drag and these expiring tax cuts? Well, the answer isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about being strategic. The number one strategy, the foundation of your defense, is pretty straightforward. You need to pay tax on less of your money. If you can legally lower the amount of income the government sees, your taxable income, you can take the sting out of those higher rates. And the best way to do that is with the retirement accounts you probably already have access to. All right, I want you to look at this number, $24,500. Burn that into your brain for a second. That is the new higher contribution limit we're expecting for 401ks in 2026. Now think about what that means. Every single dollar you put into your 401k up to that huge limit is a dollar that you don't pay taxes on this year. So you're doing two amazing things at once. You're lowering your tax bill right now, and you're building a bigger nest egg for your future. It's a total win-win. But your 401k is just shield number one. There's another account out there, one that is so often overlooked that some financial planners have started calling it a stealth IRA because its tax saving power is just off the charts. Seriously, just for a second, imagine the perfect investment account. What would it look like? Well, you'd put money in and you'd get a tax break for it. Then you'd invest that money and it would grow completely tax-free. And then when you needed to take it out for its intended purpose, it would come out, you guessed it, 100% tax-free. I mean, does an account that rate even exist? Yes, it does. It absolutely exists. It's called the Health Savings Account, or HSA. And I know what you might be thinking. Oh yeah, that little debit card I use for prescriptions. I need you to just erase that thought from your mind. That is not what this is about. Its real power, its secret identity, is as a long-term investing retirement machine. Morgan Stanley actually calls this the triple tax advantage, and it's incredible. Let's count them. 1, your contributions are tax-deductible, lowering your income today. 2, you can invest the money and it grows completely tax-free. And 3, withdrawals are also tax-free as long as they're for medical expenses. And that could be next year, or it could be 30 years from now in retirement. There is no other account in the entire tax code that gives you all 3 of those benefits. This slide right here, this is the whole game. You have to shift your mindset. Most people see their HSA as a little checking account for today's doctor bills. You need to start seeing it as a supercharged, tax-free investment vehicle for your retirement. If you can, try to pay for your smaller medical costs out of pocket and just let that HSA balance grow and compound tax-free for decades. Okay, we have covered a lot. We've talked about the problem, this fiscal drag and the 2026 cliff, and we've talked about 2 incredibly powerful shields to protect yourself. So let's put it all together. What is your simple step-by-step action plan? Here we go. It's just 3 steps. First, just acknowledge what's happening. Understand that these changes are coming and that they're probably going to affect you. Awareness is step 1. Second, take action. Boost those 401k contributions. Get as close to that new higher limit as you can to shrink your taxable income. And third, if you have a high deductible health plan that makes you eligible, you need to open an HSA, fund it, and most importantly, invest that money for the long term. That's it. Think of your 401k and your HSA as your 1-2 punch, your financial shields. They are, without a doubt, the most powerful tools the average person has to legally protect their income, build serious wealth, and defend against this 2026 tax trap. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. The rules of the game, the tax code itself, are absolutely changing in 2026. The only real question is, are you?
Wow, that was something, right? But don't go anywhere, there's more coming, and it's gonna make you think in a whole new way. Quick reminder, if you like learning cool stuff without the fluff, subscribe now. You won't regret it.
All right, let's talk about the future of side hustles. And I mean the near future, like 2026 near. Imagine a business that pretty much runs itself, one that's making you money while you're sleeping, not because you hired a huge team, but because you built a team of, well, ghosts. Today, we're going to dive into a brand new model where your workforce is totally invisible, completely automated, and get this, you don't need to know a single line of code to build. Look, we all want that side hustle, right? That extra stream of income, the pride of building something that's truly yours. But then, reality hits. You start thinking about the money you need up front, the time commitment. It can honestly feel like you need to win the lottery just to get an idea off the ground. I mean, just think about the old school way of doing things. You've got to buy all your products up front. That's a huge cost. Then suddenly your garage is a warehouse. You're drowning in packing tape and shipping labels. It's not a side hustle anymore. It's a second full-time job. It's no wonder so many amazing ideas just fizzle out before they even start. Okay, but let's just pause for a second and ask a different kind of question. What if you could just strip all of that hassle away? What if your business didn't need a stockroom or a warehouse or even a physical product that you ever have to touch? What if it could exist and actually thrive, almost like a ghost? This is the idea behind something called ghost commerce. And honestly, the concept is brilliant. It basically splits the work. You, the creator, the entrepreneur, you get to focus on the fun stuff, the branding, the marketing, building a community. All the physical, logistical headaches, someone else handles all of that. And the difference here is just night and day. Forget about managing inventory. Forget about handling shipping. Your entire focus shifts from day-to-day operations to the big picture, building a brand that people absolutely love. And your startup costs? Well, they practically vanish. Now, if you're trying to picture how this works, the easiest comparison is drop shipping, right? A customer buys something from your online store, and then a supplier ships that product directly to them. You never even see it. But what we're talking about today adds a whole new layer to this that really, truly supercharges the entire thing. Okay, so the business itself is a ghost. It doesn't have a physical footprint. That's great. But even a ghost business still has tasks that need to get done, right? Marketing emails don't just write themselves. Customer questions still need answers. So who's doing all that work? Especially when you've got your own day job to worry about. Well, meet your new secret weapon, the no-code AI agent. Seriously, think of this as an automated digital employee that you build yourself without ever having to write code. The magic here is that you are the boss. You connect the apps and services you already use, like Gmail, Shopify, whatever, and you create an agent that can handle some pretty complex tasks all on its own. So how does it actually work? It's really just a simple, logical flow. I like to think of it like setting up a line of digital dominoes. Something has to kick it off. That's the trigger, like a customer placing a new order. The first domino falls. Then, the agent collects all the info it needs. Next, it uses AI to process that info and decide what to do. Maybe draft a personalized thank you email. And finally, it takes action and sends that email. It's a step-by-step process that you design. And this is the moment it all clicks into place. You've got the ghost business model that removes the physical inventory, and now you have the ghost workforce to run it. So what happens when you put these two powerful ideas together? What can this invisible team of AI agents actually do for you? Well, pretty much everything you'd hire a human team for. Your agents can become your marketing department, running email campaigns. They can be your customer support desk, answering common questions 24/7. They can even be your content creators, helping you draft blog posts or social media updates. They can process invoices, track expenses, and even analyze sales data for you in real time. It's a genuinely autonomous operation. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A business that runs itself? It sounds amazing, maybe a little too amazing. And you're right to be skeptical. While this model is absolutely a game changer, it's not a magic button you press for free money. There are definitely some real challenges we need to talk about. On the one hand, the benefits are huge. Startup costs are incredibly low. You can scale up really fast. And it makes powerful AI accessible to anyone. But there's always a flip side, right? Because the barrier to entry is so low, the competition can be really high. You're also totally reliant on your third-party suppliers to deliver. And, of course, you've got to be smart about security and privacy. Plus, if one of your automated workflows breaks, trying to figure out exactly where it went wrong can be a real headache. So here's the bottom line. What we're seeing is the beginning of a whole new era for entrepreneurs and side hustlers. An era where the biggest, most expensive barriers to starting a business are just being erased by technology. We're combining a low-risk business model with a tireless automated workforce, and that changes the game for so many of us. So the final question I want to leave you with isn't, can you do this? It's, if you didn't have to worry about all the busy work, what amazing thing would you create? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas.
Thank you for spending time with us here at the Violet Vault. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay focused and keep growing.